Okay, so the next thing to do is I'm going to put a shelf down here. And this little shelf will come out about, I don't know, about that far, something like this. And then there will be a box here in the center. And this will have power, so it'll have two 12-volt outlets out of the front and a 110 volt outlet out of the side. So the first thing I had to do, let me just put the camera down here. So the first thing I did is going to cut a little cleat, and so I did that. And this cleat will just sit in here like that. Maybe a little farther down. Something like this. And so the back of the shelf will then sit on this cleat. So now I'm going to show you what else I've made. I haven't finished any of this yet, but I'm going to show you what I've been able to cut and make out here. Okay, so here's the shelf on the outside. So here's the surface of the shelf. This is the front of it, and so the front of the shelf was got a little lip. And then took some plywood, and this is where my 12-volt outlets will go. And you can see this little box will be made here. And there's my 110-volt outlet on this side. And the wires then will come down through the cabinet above and down into here, and then I'll wire it all up. There's also going to be some, I've got some 1/2-inch plywood that I'm using, and this will be attached to the bottom of the cabinet above, and that'll just help me to index the sides and give me something to screw into. Okay, I've got the parts for the shelf all cut out, and I'm varnishing them. So while the varnish is drying, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and cut this out. This is just this is the plywood from the outer skin, so I've got to cut out for the fan. And I'm going to use my trusty oscillating saw again. It's going to be pretty loud and pretty dusty, so I'm going to wear a respirator and my earmuffs. Sunlight. Shop light, actually. Alright, so that's where the fan will go. Okay, so here's the little power box that I made. And so that'll have a front on it like this. And then these 12-volt receptacles will fit down in that hole, and there's 120 volt on this side. So I'm going to go ahead and install this part. This has all been varnished. I'll install this part on the inside, and then I'm going to varnish this up, and I'll put that on last. Okay, so I've got the wires run into the box there. You can see them coming down through the top of the cabinet. And so the box is just kind of hanging in there with the wires. So now, just take this shelf here. Slide the shelf back. That pretty much, that will hold it up there. But I'm going to make sure, I've made a mark on this side, so I'll make sure it's all lined up. And then I punch some holes here in the top. I'm going to go ahead and run my drill bit with my countersink and put some screws in. So that's in there good and tight. I'll put in the rest of the screws. Looks like from the top. And so those will be fine, because remember those doors, being sliding doors, they don't completely open, so you'll never see this part in the center. Decided that it's probably easiest to go ahead and put this outlet in before the shelf is on, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. I don't anticipate using 110 volt very often, but since my power converter gives me the option of running 110 volt, I decided to go ahead and put it here in the cabin. There was also going to be a 110 volt outlet in the galley, and that one will have a GFI on it, so that'll give me some protection from ground faults. Okay, so that's on. Okay, so for the shelf here, I'm actually going to glue this on. I'm not going to put any screws in. So I left a... Oops. That shelf is just wide enough. So I left an area right here that I didn't put any varnish on, just specifically for this. So hopefully, just having the glue in there is going to be strong enough. Props here. Just press that up. So that's all glued now. We'll let that sit overnight. And it should be good. She looks all glued up. Okay, so here's the plate all finished. Got the receptacles in there. Also have it wired up in the back. I'm just wiring these up in, I guess that would be series. And just the reason is because the typically if we're going to be pulling any big loads, they're going to be pulling on one or the other. It's not going to be on both, so should be fine. So I'm going to go ahead and attach this. And I'm using a combination of, I'm using crimp-on connections, hoping to never have to get in here again. So the next thing to do is I'm going to take this, I'm going to glue this on. Right there. Now I'm just going to glue this on. I'm not going to put anything in the ends because I couldn't figure out how to do it to where you wouldn't be able to see it, or where I could make a nice connection. So for right now I'm just going to glue that on, and if for some reason I want to connect it at the end, I can put some screws in or something like that later on. But for right now, that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to glue this on now. So I know it fits okay. So just going to take some glue and put it down in the slot here. And by the way, when I varnish this, I mask this edge so it doesn't have any glue on it. All right, so that's glued up. Go ahead and slide that into place, like that. All right. Now, I've just got some blocks in here. Hopefully you can see that. I took these clamps, put these clamps in place. Now, I'll just take a shim and put it here. That should clamp it nice and tight. And hopefully get a good glue bond on that shelf rail. Okay, so here's the light switch mountings that I cut out, and I've rounded the edges off, and I've kind of taken a hole out of the center. And the way that'll work is then the light switch will mount in there, like that, and then the whole thing will mount on the wall, and you can see I've got enough room here in the back so it doesn't go real far into the wall, and so therefore I've got room for my wires and whatnot. So I'm going to go ahead and varnish those up. Okay, now I'm going to attach the wall switches. So I've just put some temporary screws in them, and I positioned it on the wall, drove the screws in, so I've got some holes here. And the next thing I'm going to do is, because this has all been varnished, is I'm going to take some sandpaper. I also put a real light pencil mark all the way around. I'm going to take some sandpaper, and I'm just going to sand off the varnish the inside of the wall. So if worse came to worse and the glue joint didn't hold up, then what I would do is I would just put some longer screws in and go ahead and screw them to the wall. But that's not the way I planned it, so I'm going to go ahead and try it this way. So the next thing I do is I just put some glue on the back of this. Oh, I also want to mask underneath it, just so if I do get a little drip, it doesn't just continue down the wall. Alright, nice layer of glue on there. And I'm going to take one of these screws and run it in just a little bit. Just to catch that hole on the top. Okay, so that's good. So what I'll do is I'll just let those set up, and then I'll mount the switches in there. So here's the switch plates all glued on, and you can see I've crimped some connectors on the back of this and attached it to the back of the switch. There's still not a lot of room in there, so I had to bend these up a little bit. Hopefully that'll be okay, and I'll just screw those down. Alright, so that's done. That's what she looks like. And that's for the switch for the porch lights outside.